Ukraine steals Russian brand new Tu-160. Then this happened. Breaking reports confirm a Ukrainian deep strike operation has disabled a Russian Tu-160 strategic bomber at Engels airbase. Let's understand why this happened now, and why this single event matters far more than it appears. The biting cold at Engels 2 airbase at 2:17 a.m. isn't just weather. It's the precursor to a strategic catastrophe for the Russian Federation. We are witnessing the precise moment where Soviet-era prestige collides violently with 21st century asymmetrical warfare. The Tu-160M, known as the White Swan, sits exposed on the tarmac, a $270 million symbol of Moscow's aerial dominance. Historically, this is the bird Russia flew to Venezuela to flex its muscles at Washington. But tonight, that muscle is about to be severed. In exactly 90 seconds, a swarm of Ukrainian drones, costing a fraction of the bomber's avionics suite, will turn this strategic asset into a smoldering liability. This isn't random shelling. This is a calculated high-tech heist of Russia's winter offensive capabilities. While the billion-dollar S-400 Triumph air defense systems are busy tracking decoys in the stratosphere, 50 Ukrainian Beaver drones are skimming the Volga River at nap-of-the-earth altitude, invisible to radar clutter. Their target isn't just the bomber, it's the soul of the Russian nuclear triad. The Tu-160M is a beast of engineering, the world's largest and heaviest combat aircraft, capable of Mach 2.05 speeds and carrying 40 tons of ordnance. It is the pride of the Kremlin, designed to deliver nuclear annihilation or conventional devastation with its payload of K-1 cruise missiles. But right now, it's a sitting duck. 48 hours ago, Ukrainian intelligence didn't just get lucky. They orchestrated this vulnerability. A precision ambush on a transport convoy forced this specific aircraft to be parked outside, away from the protective specialized hangars that are still under construction or repair. It's a logistical failure that Kiev is exploiting with ruthless efficiency. It is now 2:00 a.m. 600 miles deep inside Russia, the air is thick with tension. The Beaver drones are closing in. These aren't off-the-shelf toys. They are long-range loitering munitions with a range of up to 1 kilometers, capable of autonomous terminal guidance. They are ghosting through the river fog, their internal AI referencing terrain maps to stay hidden from the S-400's gaze. The stakes are existential. If this strike succeeds, it doesn't just destroy a plane. It wipes out the launch platform for dozens of cruise missiles destined for Ukrainian energy grids. The attack begins with a masterclass in electronic warfare. 10 decoy drones suddenly pitch up, screaming electronically to mimic the radar signature of Storm Shadow missiles. The Russian air defense commanders panic. The S-400 batteries, designed to kill high-altitude threats, light up the night sky, launching 48 N-6E interceptors. Each Russian missile costs millions. The decoys cost thousands. It's an economic defeat before the first explosion even happens. As the S-400s swat at ghosts, the Pantsir S-1 systems, the last line of defense, are overwhelmed. The Pantsir is a formidable close-in weapon, but it has a fatal flaw. It struggles against saturation attacks and complex clutter. The decoys create a chaotic kill box of data, freezing the fire control computers for critical seconds. While the Russian gunners are looking up, the real threat is skimming the grass. But the most audacious part of this plan isn't the drones, it's the human element. Hidden just 400 yards from the bomber, a team of GUR operatives watches. They were prepared to physically board and hijack the aircraft. a scenario that sounds like fiction, but was a genuine tactical option given the security lapses. However, a perimeter alarm triggers a quick reaction force, slamming that window shut. The operatives pivot instantly to Plan B. They digitally designate the target for the incoming swarm. The Beaver drones receive the final kill code. They stop loitering and attack. The Russian defenders are in disarray, focusing their fire on the high-altitude decoys, while the lethal swarm approaches from the tree line. The Tu-160M glows like a beacon in the infrared spectrum. But then, the swarm splits. This is the strategic genius of the operation. Only a portion of the drones target the bomber. The rest bank hard towards the ammunition bunkers. 1,300 feet away, 60 Tu-160 cruise missiles are stacked for loading. These missiles are Russia's primary winter weapon, each carrying a 400 cal warhead. 22 drones slam into the storage facility. The result is a chain reaction of apocalyptic proportions. Jet fuel and high explosives detonate, creating a thermal event that melts guidance systems and warps titanium airframes. In seconds, Russia loses 150 potential sorties. The Winter Terror campaign is effectively decapitated. Back on the tarmac, the remaining drones dive on the White Swan. They don't go for the fuselage. They target the engines. The NK-32 Do-2 engines are the heart of the beast, massive and incredibly expensive to replace. Shaped charge warheads punch through the engine cowlings, shredding the turbines with jets of molten copper. The blade-out event destroys the engines from the inside, turning the aircraft's power plants into scrap. The Tu-160M doesn't vanish in a fireball. It bleeds out, its hydraulic lines severed, its structural integrity compromised. It is mission killed. The aftermath is a strategic nightmare for Moscow. Repairing the bomber will take months and hundreds of millions of dollars, but the loss of the missile stockpile is the immediate blow. Satellite imagery in the following days reveals a panicked dispersal. The remaining strategic fleet is scrambled to Olenya airbase in the Arctic Circle, 2,000 miles away. This retreat imposes a logistics tax on every future mission. More flight hours, more maintenance, less combat effectiveness. Ukraine didn't just break a plane. They broke the myth of invincibility surrounding Russia's strategic aviation. They proved that deep within the motherland, even the most prized assets are vulnerable to cheap, smart, and relentless innovation. The White Swan, once a symbol of global power, is now a cautionary tale of modern war, a billion-dollar giant humbled by a plastic drone. This was not just a strike, it was a checkmate. To truly understand the gravity of this event, we have to look closer at what the Tu-160M represents and why its neutralization is such a pivotal moment in the conflict. The White Swan is not merely an airplane. It is a manifestation of the Soviet Union's final, desperate attempt to outpace the West in the late Cold War. When the Tupolev Design Bureau first sketched its variable sweep wings, they were answering the American B-1 Lancer. But in typical Soviet fashion, they built it bigger, faster, and heavier. It is the largest supersonic aircraft in the history of military aviation. For decades, it was the untouchable ace in the hole. That sense of untouchability was the Tu-160's greatest strength, and its most infuriating feature for those on the receiving end. From the moment it left the runway, its mission was already safe. The bomber would climb to altitude, accelerate beyond Mach 2, and release long-range cruise missiles from deep inside Russian airspace or over friendly seas. Those missiles would then fly low, hugging terrain, weaving through valleys and cities, forcing Ukraine's air defenses into exhausting, high-stakes interception battles. The aircraft itself remained far away, invisible to radar coverage, immune to retaliation. For civilians, the psychological effect was immense. Sirens did not mean an imminent jet overhead, but something worse, an unseen attack already in motion. Families rushed to shelters, knowing the launch had already happened, knowing the bomber crew was likely drinking coffee and turning back home. There was no sense of immediate threat to the attacker, no chance for a dramatic interception. Just waiting. For Ukrainian defenders, the white swan symbolized an imbalance of power. It represented a Cold War relic still capable of projecting modern terror with modern weapons. It wasn't just a bomber. It was a reminder that distance itself had become a shield, and that the battlefield no longer began at the border, but thousands of kilometers away. That concept of zero risk evaporated the moment the first Beaver drone crossed the perimeter fence at Engels. The psychological impact on the Russian aerospace forces cannot be overstated. These pilots are the elite of the elite. They live in a bubble of perceived safety, operating from bases deep in the Russian interior, far from the muddy trenches of the Donbass. They launch their missiles, drink their coffee, and land back at their secure bases to sleep in warm beds. The strike on Engels, too, shattered that bubble set. It brought the front line to their doorstep. The realization that a drone, launched perhaps from a truck bed just a few dozen miles away by covert operatives, could reduce their invincible chariot to scrap metal, creates a paralysis of command. Now, every mechanic turning a wrench on the tarmac is looking over their shoulder. Every sentry patrolling the perimeter is jumpy. The base commander is now fighting a war on two fronts: the airspace over Ukraine and the security of his own airfield. Let's dissect the technology that made this possible. The Tu-160 Beaver is a testament to the ingenuity of necessity. It is not the fastest drone, nor is it the most stealthy in a traditional sense. It doesn't have the radar-absorbent coating of an F-35. Instead, it relies on a different kind of stealth, the stealth of the mundane. It is small, made of composite materials that are transparent to many radar frequencies, and it flies low. Very low. The Russian air defense network, the much-vaunted layered defense consisting of S-400s, S-300s, and Pantsires, is primarily designed to stop NATO aircraft and cruise missiles, fast, metal targets flying at medium to high altitudes. Tracking a small, slow, plastic object moving at 100 miles per hour just above the treetops is a nightmare for these systems. The Doppler shift is minimal, often filtered out by the radar's software as ground clutter, like birds or trucks on a highway. The Ukrainians know this. They have mapped the radar blind spots of the Russian Federation with painstaking detail. They know exactly where the Volga River creates a natural radar shadow, a canyon of invisibility that leads straight to the heart of Engels. The operation demonstrates how modern warfare increasingly favors intelligence, precision, and cost efficiency over sheer size and legacy power. Months of intelligence preparation enabled Ukrainian forces to strike a high-value strategic target deep inside Russia, revealing extensive human intelligence penetration and serious weaknesses in Russian internal security. The ability to track bomber placement, guard routines, and air defense readiness indicates a failure to protect even the most sensitive military installations, undermining the idea of any secure rear area. The damage inflicted went far beyond a single aircraft. The destruction of a large stockpile of advanced cruise missiles created a lasting strategic gap. These missiles are complex, expensive, and slow to replace due to sanctions, limited production capacity, and dependence on smuggled components. Losing dozens at once removes entire future strike waves, directly reducing Russia's ability to conduct sustained attacks on Ukrainian infrastructure and sparing civilians from prolonged power and heating outages. The exchange ratio strongly favors Ukraine, as relatively cheap drones neutralized assets worth hundreds of millions of dollars. Targeting the bomber's specialized engines further amplified the impact. These engines are among the most difficult components to manufacture, relying on rare materials, specialized facilities, and long production timelines. Their destruction effectively removes the aircraft from operational service for years, if not permanently, turning it into a source of spare parts rather than a combat asset. This accelerates the slow but irreversible attrition of Russia's strategic aviation fleet. Russia's response, dispersing bombers to remote Arctic bases, highlights vulnerability rather than resilience. Harsh climates degrade aircraft faster, strain maintenance crews, and consume valuable airframe life through long transit flights. At the same time, longer flight paths eliminate surprise, providing early warning to Ukraine and its partners. Protecting distant bases also forces Russia to divert air defense systems away from active front lines, weakening ground operations. The strike illustrates a broader shift in the kill chain. Strategic effects once reserved for superpowers can now be achieved with commercially derived drones, open-source technology, and networked coordination. Swarm tactics overwhelm defenders economically, as expensive interceptors cannot be traded sustainably against low-cost attackers. Open-source intelligence and satellite imagery further erode information control, making damage undeniable and propaganda ineffective. Beyond material losses, the psychological impact is profound. The destruction of a symbol of long-range strike power boosts Ukrainian morale and exposes systemic corruption and complacency within Russian forces. Overall, the event signals the decline of centralized Cold War-era military assets against agile, adaptive, and distributed forms of warfare, marking a significant inflection point in the conflict. If this breakdown helped you understand what's really happening behind the headlines, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you don't miss our next analysis.